Hello and good afternoon to all of you. I hope all of you are doing well. So in today's class, we're going to discuss about component diagram. So component diagram is a diagram that is capable of modeling the physical aspects of the system that are the components. So component diagrams are used in order to visualize the organization and relationship between various components. It does not describe the functionality of the system because it is capable of discussing the components. So it basically describes the component used to make those functionalities. So component diagrams are also described as static implementation view of a system. Right. So these are the characteristics of a component diagram. Now, what is the purpose of the component diagram? So the very purpose of the component diagram can be to visualize the various components of the system, construct executables by using forward and reverse engineering, and describe the organization and relationship of the various components. So what we have is we have a representation, we have notations for representing various aspects of the component diagram. So we have component, we have provides interface, we have a requires interface, we have a port, and we have an entity, right? So these are the notations that are used for creating component diagrams. So we have component, we have provides interface, we have requires interface, we have port, and we have entity. So now just see here what we have is we have a very simple representation. So again, I've taken it from one of the web references. So here what we have is we have a component diagram being built for a seminar management system. So now here what we have is we have set of components interacting with each other. So the components are seminar management user interface, okay, student administration user interface, then we have facilities, we have student, we have seminar, we have schedule, we have security, we have persistent, and we have university database. So all of these are various components that are interacting in realization of a particular business. So here what we have is we have the provides interface, right? Okay, and here what we have is we have used the provides and the ball and the socket joints. So it's called as ball and the socket joints. So here we have provides, and here we have requires interface, right? So what we have is we have a user interface pertaining to seminar management that depends on facilities, that depends on students, seminar, and schedule in order to organize a particular seminar, right? So we have student administration user interface where what we have is we have a dependency on the seminar component, right? Okay, so student administration depends on the seminar component in order to enable students to enroll into a particular seminar, right? Okay, so here what we have with associated with each of the components, we have the provides interface. So it's capable of providing data access, right? Okay, and it's capable of providing data access as well as it's capable of providing facility. So here in case of student component, it provides access to the data as well as the way how to manipulate the student record. Likewise, seminar we have data access, and seminar and we have schedule, so we have data access and schedule, right? Okay, so using one of the interface, what we can do is we can access the data that is pertaining to either of these four components, and the other interface we can on the other provides interface, what we can do is we can perform some purpose specific tasks, right? So seminar management depends on all the four components, whereas student management administration depends on only one component, right? Okay, where all of these four component depends on some security component that's capable of providing security to the data, right? Okay, and the data, there has to be some component that is capable of ensuring persistence, right? Okay, persistence basically means it's permanently stored, right, in the university database. So it requires university database, right? Okay, so what we have is we have a bridge here, JDBC bridge, that is being used, right? Again, so here the persistence is enabled with the help of a university database. So it's a database. So just see, this is a very simple component diagram that tries to represent interaction between various components that are capable of realizing the seminar management system, where we have seminar management as one of the user interface, and student administration is one of the other user interface. Seminar management would require access to details of all the four other components that are facilities, student, seminar, and schedule, where we have associated with each of the component, we have a provides interface. It's capable of providing data access, and using the other interface, what we can do is we can perform some purpose specific task, right? So with each of the four components, we have some purpose specific interface using which we can perform some purpose specific task. So seminar management depends on all the four, whereas student administration depends on only the seminar, where student will be enrolling into the seminar. So the details regarding all the four components has to be securely stored in a particular database. So there is a component that is capable of ensuring security, and it has to be persistently stored in the university database. So there's a component that exhibits persistence, as well as there's a component that is capable of representing university database, right? Okay. So this is the way how component diagram for the seminar management system is being built. So it highlights the various components, as well as the dependency, as well as the provides requires interface, right? So here in different versions of our component diagram, we have different notations being used. Okay, so this is one way of creating component diagram. Now what we have is we have deployment diagram. So the deployment diagram is a diagram that is used in order to visualize the topology of physical components. So the place where the physical components will be actually residing during the execution time, right? Okay, or the place where the physical components will be actually residing when the physical component is to realize a business. So deployment diagram are used in order to describe the static deployment view of a system. So deployment diagram consists of nodes and the relationships. So again, we'll straight away move to just a view. So we have different locations where the different components of the systems reside in order to realize a particular behavior. So we'll come to that again. So purpose of the deployment diagram. So the very purpose of the deployment diagram, it describes the location of topology where the components will be deployed whenever the components is expected to realize behavior. So deployment diagrams are used for describing the hardware component and the software components and the software component and the location where it's deployed, right? So component diagram and deployment diagram are closely related. So component diagram is a diagram that highlights all the components, whereas deployment diagram highlights all the components, the places or topology where the components reside, right? So the purpose of the deployment diagram is to visualize the hardware topology of the system, describe the hardware component used to deploy software component, and describe the runtime processing nodes. So these are the three important purposes of a deployment diagram. So what we've learned about what is a deployment diagram. So deployment diagram is a diagram that aims at visualizing the topology of the physical components that are there in the system, that is the location where the software components will be deployed. So deployment diagrams are used in order to describe the static deployment view of a system. Deployment diagram consists of nodes and their relationship, right? So purpose of the diagram, so it tries to specify the deployment point, right? It tries to specify where the software component of the system will be deployed, in which portion of the hardware, right? So component diagrams and deployment diagrams are closely related, but component diagram identifies only the component, whereas deployment diagram identifies the component as well as the location. Now there are different purposes of deployment diagram. So it is used to visualize the hardware topology of the system. It is used to describe hardware component that is used in order to deploy the software component, and it describes the runtime processing nodes. Now this is a very simple deployment diagram. Again, I've taken it from a web reference. So here, the same component diagram is been framed into a deployment diagram where different components are placed at different locations. So here we have the web server where the student administration unit is placed, right? So we have the application server where the student seminar schedule, registration persistence, and the course management is placed. We have the database server where the university database is placed, right? Again, and we have another mainframe system where the course management is placed, right? Again, so this is a very simple deployment diagram that tries to identify the place where the deployment of the various components in the component diagrams are made. So here the web server interacts with the application server using RMI, remote method invocation. Here we have a JDBC bridge that is being established between the application server and the database server, right? So we have a message bus in between the course management and the application server. So just see, it's basically a representation of component diagram where we also try to specify the deployment point. So in today's class, what we learned about is we have learned about what is a component diagram. We have learned about what are the various purposes of a component diagram. We have learned about what are the various notations that are used in component diagram. We have learned about component diagram with the help of an example. Then we moved on to deployment diagram. We try to discuss the importance of the deployment diagram. We try to discuss the purpose of the deployment diagram, and then we try to learn about deployment diagram with the help of an example. So thank you very much. Have a very good day. So this ends the seventh chapter that we have in software engineering.